Storyteller 1. I'm really confused by my husband's reaction to my 4-week trip. I'm 29. He's 32. We've been married for almost 7 years, and we don't have children. Lately, we've been going through a rough patch. Constant tension, ongoing issues, and the word divorce has already come up in our conversations more than once. We don't have huge problems with cheating or trust. It's more like long-term everyday and emotional problems. Even so, we still haven't separated, and we keep living our day-to-day life, trying to figure things out. I recently got a really good, one-of-a-kind job offer abroad that would last for about 4 weeks. Everything is covered, and the pay is very good. I've been waiting a long time for an opportunity like this, especially in this field and in this region. My best friend will also be there, so for me, this feels like a true, once-in-a-lifetime chance, and that's where the problem starts. My husband thinks 4 weeks is way too long. He really doesn't like the idea. He keeps asking me to check whether I could go for only 2 weeks instead. I keep asking him to explain why, but he just repeats that 4 weeks is too long. When I press him harder, he finally says, "It's too risky, it's dangerous." I ask him, "Why do you think the first 2 weeks are safe, but after that it suddenly becomes unsafe? Why are you so fixated on exactly 2 weeks?" He still doesn't give a real answer. He just says that any other man in his place would feel the same way. Then he adds, "I don't agree with you taking this job at all, so you should be grateful that I'm at least okay with 2 weeks." He presents it as a compromise, like he's making a big concession and meeting me halfway, just not for the full duration of the project. For me, that really hurts. The job is designed to last 4 weeks. Why on earth should I go for only 2 if the project itself is a full month? If my husband can't respect and accept that I want to work the entire 4 weeks, what kind of reasoning is that? It feels incredibly unfair. I talked to him calmly and explained that we're married adults, and this is not how 2 grown people are supposed to make decisions together. He still keeps repeating, 4 weeks is too long. And I'm starting to wonder, what am I missing here? I'm very ambitious. I want to travel for work before we have kids. This isn't some shady side gig. It's a normal official position at an institution. I don't understand this 2 weeks or nothing ultimatum. It feels like he's trying to literally cut my opportunity in half so that I'm reminded I only get as much as he allows. It really hurts me. Instead of saying, "I'm proud of you, I'm happy for you, yes, I'm worried, but I support you," he starts laying down conditions. I don't feel like an adult partner. I feel like a child who's only allowed a small piece of what she really wants. It makes me feel like a bad daughter, a bad wife, and guilty simply for wanting to grow and move forward. What do you think about all this? My thoughts. To me, it seems pretty clear that his biggest fear is either cheating or that the relationship will change for good. Given that they're already in a difficult phase, he's probably afraid that either she'll cheat on him while she's away, or she'll come back a different person after a month without him, with new impressions and conclusions, and decide that divorce isn't such a bad idea after all. We can safely assume this isn't her very first trip. From the way she writes, her job involves travel, and for her it's a normal part of her career. That makes his reaction look even stranger. Objectively, 4 weeks is not some insane amount of time. A lot of people have partners who are sailors, soldiers, or work rotational shifts. They disappear for months at a time, not just weeks. Compared to that, 4 weeks is way too long. Honestly, sounds a bit ridiculous. If someone wants to cheat, they don't need 4 weeks. 2 days are enough. So clearly the issue isn't the length of the trip. It's his lack of trust and his need for control over the situation. The phrase, "You should be grateful that I'm allowing you 2 weeks," is especially toxic. That isn't partnership, it's control. Adults don't allow each other to work. They discuss, negotiate, and support each other. From a professional point of view, this is a completely normal business trip. Most likely everything is already arranged. Tickets, accommodation, schedule. Imagine her going to her boss and saying, "My husband thinks 4 weeks is too long. Can I come for just 2?" Any reasonable manager will decide she's not serious about her job. What the original poster and commenters add. The original poster gives a few more important details. First, she's going to a conservative Muslim country, where she'll be working 6 days a week, and contact with the opposite sex is very limited. So this is definitely not about parties or some beach romance. Second, she fairly points out, if he's afraid she'll cheat, what makes the first 2 weeks different from the third and fourth? If a person has decided to cheat, a couple of days is enough. Third, he knows that she has already spent several weeks abroad on non-work trips, where she could have done whatever she wanted. And she never crossed any lines, so he actually has proof from real life that she's loyal. Fourth, she's not against him coming to visit her. They could spend some time together there. But she emphasizes, she's not his child, she's his wife. This is a one-time, serious career opportunity, not a way to run away from the marriage. From the comments, people suggest that for him, this trip feels like a point of no return. He's scared she'll experience another life, another atmosphere, and then no longer want to return to her old self next to him. That's why he panics and tries to shorten the trip as much as possible to maintain an illusion of control. Some say that if he really was so afraid of losing the relationship, it would make much more sense to be honest and say something like, "I'm really worried because we're already on the edge, and you'll be gone for a long time. Let's talk about how to get through this. Maybe I can visit you for part of the time. Maybe we can set some communication rules." Instead of throwing out ultimatums like 4 weeks, no, maximum 2. There's also a theory that, on the contrary, he already wants to end the relationship but doesn't want to say it directly. So he behaves as badly as possible, hoping she'll be the one who finally snaps and walks away. It's a classic passive-aggressive way to end things using the other person's hands. Another story from the comments. One woman wrote that her ex-husband also hated her work trips, even though she was the main breadwinner. When she traveled for work, he gave her the silent treatment, didn't support her, and when she came back, he treated her like garbage. Later, with a new partner, she kept traveling on long assignments, and he did the opposite. He flew out to visit her, spent time with her there, was interested in her projects, and was very proud of her. The difference in how that felt was huge. The general conclusion from all these comments is, a partner who truly loves and respects you, your independence, and your ambitions will not put you in a 2 weeks or nothing situation over a work trip that's important for your career. He will either honestly talk through his fears and feelings, or he'll support you and try to find a real compromise. But phrases like, "You should be grateful that I allow this," are about control, fear, and a very unhealthy dynamic in their relationship. Storyteller 2. Am I the jerk for telling my 14-year-old daughter she looks average? I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I'm a 39-year-old woman. My daughter is extremely insecure, and to be honest, almost unhealthily fixated on her appearance. She very often avoids mirrors and photos, because her mood instantly drops whenever she sees herself. She constantly asks me and her father if we think she's pretty. We always give her the same answer, that she is beautiful, kind, and has beauty both on the outside and on the inside. I know how many teenage girls struggle with how they look, because I was once exactly like that myself. Her vanity doesn't so much annoy me as drain me, but more than anything, I'm afraid it will eventually make her completely hate herself. Yesterday, I decided to sit her down and talk seriously about all this, to ask what's really bothering her and whether she might consider seeing a therapist. She said she didn't want to discuss it, but as her mother, I'm going to worry anyway, so I gently pushed. Eventually, she agreed. After a few minutes of talking, she said, "Mom, I want you to be completely honest with me. That means no buts and no softening it up. Be straight with me. No, you just don't see yourself properly in the mirror or anything like that. I want to know, do you truly think I'm beautiful, or are you just lying to me?" I see myself as an honest person, so I gave her the most straightforward answer I could. I told her that she looks average, like most people in the world, that having an average appearance isn't something bad at all. She immediately got up, walked away without saying a word, and shut herself in her room. The next day, she was distant and cold with me the whole time. I feel awful, and now I'm worried I may have permanently damaged her self-esteem. Does that make me the bad guy? My reaction. Honestly, this is one of those stories that make you think there should be a test for basic emotional readiness before people have kids. Your 14-year-old daughter, already fragile and likely being bullied at school, comes to you and says, "Mom, it really hurts how I look. Please tell me honestly, am I pretty?" And your answer is essentially, "Well, you're average, like everyone else." I just cannot process that as a normal response to your own child. Honesty is good, but there is still such a thing as tact, empathy, and understanding. Why? You're choosing to say certain words in a certain moment. Yes, people love to say, "I'm just honest, I always tell the truth." Very often what that really means is, I'm just rude and don't bother filtering what I say or when I say it. In my opinion, for parents, their child should be the most beautiful, the best, even if objectively, that's not what the world would say. Or at the very least, parents should be the people who give their child a sense of safety and worth, not the ones who effectively repeat what the school bullies are saying, what people in the comments are saying. One of the top comments goes more or less like this. The only situation where brutal honesty would make sense is if your daughter came to you and asked, "Do you think I could be a supermodel?" But that's not what she asked. This isn't some random acquaintance asking you to rate her chances in the modeling industry. This is your child asking, "Do you think I'm beautiful?" after being mocked for how she looks to the point where she can't even look in the mirror without wanting to cry. Another comment. I agree the mom completely lacks tact. You could have expressed the same idea in a much softer way. For example, bring up actresses with imperfect looks who are still widely seen as beautiful, or explain that beauty isn't limited to what we see on social media. A lot of people also point out that the mother calls her daughter's pain vanity, but this isn't vanity. If a child can't look in the mirror, cries over her appearance, and hides from cameras, that's a massive insecurity, not some light, "Oh, she just loves herself too much." Another important point from the comments. Now that you know she's being bullied, that she's depressed and literally avoiding mirrors, what are you going to do about it? Instead of giving her something solid to hold on to emotionally, you confirmed her worst fears. That's scary, because you probably truly believe you're helping. People also highlight that the mother basically echoed the bully's words. If classmates tell her, "You're ugly, you're not pretty," and at home she hears, "Well, you're average like everyone else," her brain will translate it as, "So they were right. Even my mom doesn't call me pretty." Conclusion, yes. It's okay to explain to a child that not everyone looks like Instagram models, that there are many kinds of beauty, that looks aren't everything. But to do this with a 14-year-old who is already being bullied, in the form of, "You're just average like most people," and right after she explicitly asked you for comfort and reassurance, that's extremely harsh. This isn't really about lying versus telling the truth. It's about whether you understand that your child is currently at an emotional low point, and whether you're capable of not pushing her even deeper under the banner of honesty. That's why most people in the comments agree that, in this situation, the mother really does come off as the jerk. Story near 3. Am I the jerk for breaking up with my boyfriend because of the orange peel theory? I ended things with my boyfriend because of something called the orange peel theory. So what is that supposed to mean? I first heard about it in a TikTok video. The basic idea is that you ask someone you're close to do a small favor for you. Something simple like peeling an orange, tying your shoelaces, or another tiny task you could easily do yourself. The real test isn't the task itself, but how the person reacts. If they answer with something like, "Can't you do it yourself?" or, "What, you're not capable of doing that on your own?" that's usually a sign they're not willing to do small things for you. And if they can't be bothered with small favors, they're probably not going to step up when it comes to bigger responsibilities later on. But if they do it happily, or even take the initiative and help you right away, then they pass the test, so to speak. Now, here's how this played out in my life. I'm 22, and I'd been dating my boyfriend for 7 months. One day, I was lying on the couch, scrolling TikTok, and I came across a video about this theory. I thought it might be interesting to try it out. Up until that point, I genuinely believed we were happy together. But looking back now, his reactions don't surprise me anymore. I asked him if he could tie my hair up in a ponytail. He looked at me and asked why I couldn't just do it myself. At first I thought maybe he was intimidated by my long hair, or just didn't know how. But he'd had long hair in the past too. He knew perfectly well how to tie it up. I asked again, thinking maybe he didn't quite catch what I meant, and he repeated that I could do it myself. I was in the kitchen at the time, and he said he needed to relax because he'd just finished work. I already know what some people are probably thinking. Give the guy a break, he just got off work. But he works from home. And even when he's tired, he always has enough energy to play video games or go out drinking with his friends. Despite all that, I honestly wasn't planning to end the relationship over something I saw on TikTok. That felt silly and impulsive. But everything shifted when I asked him to toss a towel into the dryer so it would be warm when I got out of the shower. In the end, I just did it myself. And that's when it really hit me just how much I do for him and for his child, who isn't even mine. I feed his daughter, carry her around, change her diapers, babysit her, spend time with her, take care of her, and he can't even be bothered to throw a towel in the dryer. So here's the question. Am I a jerk for ending the relationship? You're not the bad guy because of TikTok. You were his unpaid babysitter and unpaid housekeeper. That's the real problem. Honestly, I think the orange peel theory actually makes a lot of sense in real life. Love and care really do show up in those tiny everyday things. I don't believe she dumped him because of a TikTok video. She ended things because of his reaction and his overall behavior. The video just gave her a framework to see that she wasn't getting real care or reciprocity from him. Then she replied to the comments with an update. Look, I get what you're all saying and where you're coming from. I admit it probably wasn't the smartest thing to take advice from TikTok, and yes, it might have been a bit impulsive on my part. But I don't agree that what happened is some tiny, insignificant thing. This whole situation made me realize that I do way more for him than he does for me. Our relationship isn't ending because my towel won't be warm or my hair won't be tied up. It's ending because I've realized I'm settling for a guy who never takes me anywhere, doesn't really help with his own child, and has zero motivation in life beyond living in his parents' house, playing games and drinking, while I carry a big chunk of the load that allows him to live that way. In my opinion, considering we've only known each other for 7 months, we already have way too many problems for such a new relationship. I don't see a future with him or with his child. Thanks again to everyone who took the time to read and respond. And yes, I agree. 7 months isn't a long time, but it's exactly these little warning bells that help you spot the red flags that would turn into massive issues later on. And the fact that she clearly spends more time with his kid than he does himself says a lot on its own. Now to the comments. I always feel like some people who talk about the orange peel theory on TikTok don't fully understand what it's about. It's not about demanding your partner do things you can do, but just don't feel like doing. It's about seeing whether they're willing to do a small, reasonable favor when you ask them. If my wife just flopped on the couch with an orange and said, "Peel this for me," I'd probably say, "You have hands." But if she said, "I hurt my hand, I can't peel this, could you do it for me?" I'd do it without a second thought. I see it as one of the ways we show we care. And my take on that? Honestly, I don't agree with it. Asking someone, "Can you peel this orange for me, please?" is not some act of slavery. If my boyfriend just crashed onto the couch with an orange and said, "Peel it for me," I'd peel it for him. It's just an orange. These are the little things I don't even overthink. Why does his wife have to injure her hand before he considers peeling an orange for her? Why can't he just do it because she asked? To me, it's the same as this kind of situation. Are you making tea? So, yeah. Could you make me a cup too, please? That's completely normal. I don't see anything wrong with doing something small like that for someone you love. Another comment. My boyfriend brings me coffee or gets up to turn off the light when I'm comfy and don't want to move. He does little things for me, even if I'm perfectly capable of doing them myself. And I do the same for him. I bring him water to the bedroom, grab his socks if he forgot them, or pick up his favorite snack at the store and leave it on the table. These small acts of service are how you show the people you love that you care about them. I read your update. You left a guy who wanted a live-in nanny and housekeeper, but didn't even bother to put a ring on your finger. He's extremely lazy, and his mom is enabling that behavior by raising him to be a spoiled son who never has to do anything for himself. A bit of context before her full update. Update from the original poster. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your comments. I'm not 12, I'm 22. I also want to clarify a few things. I never intended it to look like I was deliberately setting him up or trapping him like some crazy girl testing her boyfriend. I just used the theory as a way to see what he would do, and it ended up helping me realize that I'm putting in about 90% of the effort, while he's putting in maybe 30%. The orange peel thing helped me take off the rose-colored glasses and actually see how much I'm doing with basically no appreciation or reciprocity. For those saying they also sometimes say no to small tasks, that's just not who I am. If my partner asked me to tie his shoelaces, I'd get down on one knee and do it, because I see it as a simple way to show love. I've never asked him to do anything I wasn't capable of doing myself, because I'm independent. That doesn't apply to him. He relies on me for almost everything. I'm his nanny, cook, cleaner, and chauffeur. Yes, I had doubts, and I knew I needed to at least try to talk to him and give him a chance to fix the imbalance. I texted him saying we needed to talk. He asked me to drive him to my place because his mom wasn't home. I picked him up, and to my surprise, he had his kid with him. I asked if we could just stay in the car for a bit and talk before going inside. He said he was hoping we could talk later on the way because his friend wanted to meet up with him. That's when I lost it. I told him to get out of the car, and I said everything I'd been holding in. He looked shocked, then said it was my fault for waiting too long to bring it up, that his daughter was already attached to me after almost a year. I drove home, and within minutes, my phone was full of messages from his mom about how I was stepping back instead of becoming a good future wife and mother. The thing is, I don't want to be either of those things to him, not his unpaid nanny, not his housekeeper. I know some of you dislike the orange peel theory, but I honestly think I hit the bullseye with it. For me, the turning point was this. I said, "We need to talk," and he responded by asking me for a ride because his mom wasn't home, brought his kid along, and still planned to go drinking with his buddies while I stayed with the child. That's when I finally understood. To him, I'm just a convenient babysitter, not a partner. And the comments on this update are brutal and accurate. She texted him, "We need to talk." He asked her to give him a ride so she could stay with his kid while he went out drinking with his friends. That's not just hitting the target, that's a direct nuclear strike in, girl. He absolutely wanted to use you as free childcare while he lived his carefree life. And another one. I've been married nearly 15 years, together for 12 years before that. If I ask my husband to do something I can do myself, just not right that second, he does it. If he asks me for the same, I do it. That's what partnership is. I genuinely don't understand how a marriage is supposed to survive if one or both people can't be bothered to show even a little bit of kindness to each other. I completely agree with that. These tiny orange peel moments are actually huge indicators of how much someone really cares about you. The effort is minimal, but the meaning behind it can be enormous. I honestly love the orange peel theory. And if you ever find yourself doubting your relationship, it might be worth paying attention to how your partner reacts to those small, simple requests. Story number 4. Am I the jerk for not letting my husband travel? For context, my husband loves to travel. He's not reckless about it. He just genuinely enjoys going places. We've taken trips together to several countries, and we've always had a great time. I got pregnant during the pandemic. We talked about it a lot because the timing felt strange. I'd always wanted a baby, just not that soon. My husband was unsure at first, too. In the end, we both decided to treat it as a sign and chose to keep the pregnancy. Back then, he told me that he still wanted to travel in the future and asked if I would be okay with that. My parents had always said they desperately wanted a grandchild, to the point where, even before I was pregnant, they promised they'd happily look after the baby so that we could still go on trips. So I knew that if we continued traveling, our child would be well cared for. Because of that, I agreed. He could still travel sometimes. We had the baby, and now our child is 8 months old. My husband has been a really good father. He hasn't gone anywhere since the baby was born and is always around. Every so often, he would bring up ideas for our next trip. But honestly, at this stage, I felt very strongly that he needed to stay home and be a dad. In my mind, once you're a father, you shouldn't be disappearing even for a day. I told him that. He was clearly hurt and said he needed some time to think and didn't want to discuss it further right then. I agreed to give him space. The very next day, his old college friend called and invited him to a wedding trip in Taiwan. My husband told me about it and explained that this friend had helped him through a lot back in their university years. It would really mean a lot to him to be there for 4 or 5 days. I still told him no. That's when he blew up. He said I was going back on the promise I'd made while I was pregnant, that I had agreed he'd still be able to travel. He kept insisting we could leave the baby with my parents. I told him that if we did that, we wouldn't really be parenting, that it would feel like we were just dumping our child on the grandparents. He argued that this wasn't true at all, that we both know our baby would be safe and loved with them. I refused to budge and said that's not what responsible parenting looks like. At one point, I even told him I could take legal action if he tried to leave the baby with my parents, just so he could get on a plane. That was the breaking point. He smashed his PlayStation and completely shut down. Since then, He only talks to me about things related to the baby and refuses to engage on anything else. So, am I the jerk? Commentary, cross reactions. From my perspective, yes, she kind of is. It's very similar to that other story where a woman refused to let her husband go back to his job on a ship, even though she knew about his work before they got married, and he'd already been doing it for years. The same question applies here. Why start a relationship with someone when you clearly know who they are, even reassure them you're fine with it, and then punish them later for acting exactly like that person? She knew from day one that he loved traveling. She traveled with him. During the pregnancy, she explicitly told him, "Yes, you'll still be able to travel." On top of that, her parents had been begging for a grandchild and had said long beforehand, "Please give us a grandbaby. We'll gladly watch them while you two go enjoy yourselves." And now, when he finally wants to go away for just 4 or 5 days, she shuts it down entirely. I do understand her feelings to a point. She has an 8-month-old, she's exhausted, and she wants support. That's real. But this isn't him vanishing for months. It's a short trip with a very solid safety net in the form of her own parents. A huge part of this is probably postpartum hormones. Hormonal shifts after birth can last for many months, sometimes close to a year. Add sleep deprivation, stress, and new mom anxiety, and her reactions start to make emotional sense, but that doesn't make them rational. The part where she threatens to sue out him, though? That's extreme. He's not trying to leave the baby alone in a locked apartment. He wants to leave the child with loving, trustworthy grandparents who have literally been begging for more time with their grandchild. Some commenters basically say, "You want to take your husband to court because he wants to leave the baby with its grandparents so he can attend a wedding? That's not abandonment. That's not putting the child in danger. Why can't you stay with the baby or even stay at your parents' place with the baby while he's gone for 3-5 days? 4 or 5 days really isn't that long. I get her anxiety. I don't like leaving my pets when I travel, even when someone reliable is taking care of them, and we're talking about a baby here, not a cat." Her fear is understandable, but if you look at it logically, the trip is short. The caretakers are her own parents. She could even stay with her parents and the baby while he's away, if separation is what scares her most. Then why absolutely forbid the trip instead of trying to find a compromise? Another comment goes roughly like this. I could empathize with her up until the moment she started talking about suing him. That's where she lost me completely. You'd think he wanted to leave the baby locked in a closet for a week, not with 2 willing, loving grandparents. It makes it pretty clear she's no longer just protecting the baby. She's trying to control and punish her husband. He has always loved travel. She told him it would still be possible, and now she's using the child and the situation as leverage against him. She needs professional help to find a healthy middle ground. So leaving the baby with the grandparents for a few days is a totally reasonable solution. I tend to agree. To me, it looks like this. She's overwhelmed and scared, which is valid. But instead of saying, "I'm terrified and I need help," she's trying to control him through the child and even intimidate him with legal threats, which is not okay. A lot of people suggest family therapy for them, to work through expectations, guilt, fear, how involved the grandparents should be, and what balance between parenting and personal life could look like. In conclusion, yes, she has every right to feel anxious, to not want a long separation from her baby, and to want her husband to be involved and present. But threatening to take him to court, going back on a promise she herself made, completely banning a short trip to support a close friend at a wedding, when there are responsible, eager grandparents asking to spend time with the child, that's too much. In this situation, most people do see her as the jerk. At least because of how far she went with control and threats instead of honest communication and compromise. Story number 5. Today, I messed up by telling my girlfriend her weight gain doesn't attract me. I'll start with this. I've been with my girlfriend for 6 years. She's the love of my life. I truly, unconditionally love her and would do anything to make her happy. I'm even saving up right now to take her to Paris so I can propose to her there. I used to be an athlete. My whole life has revolved around eating well and working out. I fell in love with sports when I was a kid, and it's always been a huge part of who I am. Over the past few years, she's gained a lot of weight, around 20 kilos. She was already a bit on the heavier side when we first got together. I've always been more into slim, fit women, but I liked her so much as a person that I still felt a strong attraction to her, even when she was curvier than my usual type. Now, though, I just don't really feel that physical spark anymore. I've never told her that, because I didn't want to hurt her. And I know it bothers her too. She can't dress the way she wants anymore, and finding clothes that fit has become a struggle. She's mentioned more than once that she wants to lose weight, but she can't afford the specific diet program she's interested in. So I've been paying for it, and it's not cheap, it's a big chunk of my paycheck. I genuinely want to support her. I cook most of our meals, but she isn't a big fan of my healthy food and usually eats very little of it. I've suggested several times that we work out together, or even try a totally new sport so that we both start from scratch, but it never lasts more than a couple of sessions. Physically, she's completely healthy, no hormonal issues or other medical problems. Mentally, she's okay too, which I'm honestly very grateful for. Because my sexual attraction has dropped, we barely have sex now. She still tries, she initiates sometimes, but I just don't feel excited about it the way I used to. Recently, she asked me if I'd be happier if she lost some weight. I said, "I think you're beautiful, but you'll look like a supermodel once you hit your goal." Then she followed up and asked if the reason we're having less sex is because she's gained weight. And my dumb brain just blurted out, "I think that's partly why." Now she doesn't want to talk to me. Host's commentary. This is definitely not the first story I've seen where a guy isn't happy with how his partner looks and everything starts falling apart because of that. But here, honestly, I'm on his side. How? He said it, and how many other people say it in similar situations are two totally different things. His approach is one of the gentlest you could realistically expect. He didn't say, "Wow, you've gotten fat, go lose weight, I'm disgusted." He did not say that. On the contrary, he actually handled it pretty kindly. When she asked if he'd be happier if she lost weight, he reassured her that she's beautiful now, and then added that she'd look like a supermodel if she reached her goal. To me, that clearly shows he's trying to support her own desire to lose weight, not push his preference onto her. It's also obvious that she wants to lose weight. She sees herself in the mirror. She hates that clothes don't fit the way they used to. She's complained about how hard it is to find things to wear. She says she wants to slim down but can't afford the diet, and he steps in and pays for it. The fact that he's offering, "Let's go to the gym together, let's pick something new we can both learn," is, in my opinion, a really healthy way to handle it. If I were in her place, that's exactly how I'd want a partner to bring it up. Not, "You're fat, fix it," but, "I want us both to feel better, let's work on it together." I absolutely understand that hearing something like this from your partner can hurt. It's probably extremely painful. But on the other hand, it's 20 kilos. I'm sure she already knew. She'd already put two and two together. He just confirmed it out loud when she directly asked the question. People's comments. Woman 34. It's hard to hear the truth, but if I asked my partner directly, I'd want an honest answer. Yes, it would hurt, but someone is going to feel hurt no matter who starts the conversation. If people are mature enough to look inward, they can take it as an opportunity to get healthier. It can also actually strengthen trust in the relationship. I wouldn't want to be in a relationship where we can't openly talk about our thoughts and feelings. Ideally, I'd want my partner to start the conversation like, "Love, this is hard to say, but I want to be honest. I still love you, and I value our emotional connection a lot. But lately, I've been struggling with physical attraction. I'd really like us to focus on our health and fitness together." You don't have to use the word fat or pick apart specific body parts. You can frame it as your struggle and your wish that you both feel strong, fit, and healthy together. Another commenter said, "Someone once called me an alcoholic. I went to my partner and asked if he thought the same. He said yes. I could have gotten defensive and accused him of lying or exaggerating, but deep down, I knew it was true. It hurt, but it ended up being the turning point for me. In other words, she asked a direct question and got a direct answer. It just wasn't the answer she wanted. That doesn't make him the villain." Update from the original poster. I feel awful. She's crying and refusing to talk to me. Hurting her was the last thing I wanted. I know this is a really sensitive topic for her. I also know her previous relationship ended because, according to her ex, she'd gained too much weight. I'm scared the same thing will happen to us, even though I truly want her to be my physical type again so we can have a more active sex life. Sexual frustration is hard for me to deal with. I honestly don't think my attraction will go back to how it was if everything stays exactly the same. In the end, it's her choice. Either she really tries to step out of her comfort zone and make some changes, or she stays as she is. And if that happens, I think our relationship will slowly fall apart. And another user added their own experience. I've been where your girlfriend is. My wife spent years begging me to lose weight and take better care of myself. Eventually, she had to tell me, "You're not doing anything to help yourself. I'm going to have to increase your life insurance, so we're not financially destroyed when you die earlier than you should." That was my wake-up call. When I applied for insurance, they basically flagged me as too overweight, and that was the last straw. A week later, I had my first consultation for bariatric surgery. I lost 97 pounds, about 43 kilos, in 90 days, and I feel so much better now, physically and mentally. Host's closing thoughts. It makes me sad, because I do understand that losing weight is hard, but I don't understand having zero willingness to even try changing something when you're clearly miserable in your own body. Diet, exercise, they can be introduced gradually, in tiny steps. The guy isn't saying, "Whatever, I don't care, stay like this forever." If anything, it's obvious that her discomfort is painful for him to watch too. Personally, I don't judge people for their weight. I genuinely don't care how much anyone weighs, as long as they feel comfortable and happy. Their body, their rules. But in this story, it's clear that she isn't comfortable. She cries, can't find clothes she likes, says she wants to lose weight. And he's suffering too, because he loves her, but is honestly admitting that his attraction has changed. I really hope they manage to either talk this through properly and work on it together, or, if they can't, to part ways in a respectful way that doesn't destroy them both. Story number 6. Am I the jerk for divorcing my pregnant wife because she checked my phone? I'll start with this. Everything started because of one comment. My wife left a comment under some post that said something like, "He has a mistress." I assumed she was just joking, because I'd ignored her text messages and was on my phone hanging out with friends. I didn't take it seriously at all. Then she started bringing it up more and more, and our arguments became more frequent. During one of those fights, I asked her what was wrong. She said she suspected I was cheating on her. She started bringing up things like how I looked at other women in the park, how I came home late from work, and so on. After that, she began demanding that I show her my phone. I refused and told her I'm not obligated to do that. For the record, I have never asked to see her phone. She said, "If you have nothing to hide, you should show me your phone." I answered that she should trust me and that I'm not required to provide proof of my honesty. She didn't calm down and kept insisting. So I drew a very clear line. I told her that if she ever goes through my phone, I will file for divorce. Despite that, she still went through my phone. Of course, she didn't find anything, because I have never cheated and don't plan to. I told her she had crossed a line, and that yes, we could deal with everything else. But this fact was a deal breaker for me. She panicked, started apologizing and crying, but for me, there was no way back. Now she blames it all on hormones, says she's been having dreams where I cheat on her, that she's overly emotional because of the pregnancy. I get that, but I still think she should have trusted me. I don't think I should have to provide proof of my innocence at every step. If she married me, then why did she do it if she already had those kinds of suspicions in her head? She could have just come to me and said, "I'm scared, I'm anxious, my hormones are all over the place, I'm having nightmares, I need reassurance and support from you." Instead, she put me in the role of a suspect and demanded evidence. It really hurts that my own wife trusted her fears more than she trusted me and decided to check my phone like I'm a proven cheater. After I told her I wanted a divorce, she called her parents. They called my parents. Now they're all pressuring me together, asking me to forgive her, to take hormones into account, and so on. I've decided no. She crossed the line. I'm really sad. I had a lot of plans. I spent hours making our home safe for our future child. I just wanted a happy family story for myself. Now it all feels like it's falling apart. I have to figure out how to be a father as a divorced man, not inside a family. My phone doesn't stop ringing. Relatives, calls, messages. I've already stopped replying to most of them. I believe I have the right to privacy and trust in my own marriage, without having to prove my innocence at every step. I mostly work from home. I'm rarely away for long. I only go into the office 2 days a week. I don't even have the time to cheat, realistically. So, am I the jerk? Host's commentary? Honestly, this sounds absurd. Yes, everyone has their own boundaries, including around phones, personal space, private messages. For some people, the phone is just an object they don't mind handing to their partner. For others, it's an important boundary. But, divorcing your pregnant wife solely because she looked through your phone? Were you really that committed to this marriage? I agree that relationships need trust and respect for personal boundaries, but I also think that a certain amount of paranoia and anxiety in a pregnant woman is, unfortunately, almost a normal side effect. Hormones, body changes, fear for the baby, fear that her husband won't find her attractive anymore, plus the internet flooded with stories about men cheating on their pregnant wives. All of that can push someone into a spiral very quickly. Yes, she was wrong to go through his phone, but the fact that, once he found out, he immediately jumped straight to divorce feels at the very least like an overreaction. And there's another important point. When someone is already anxious and you, instead of calming them down, say things like, "You need to trust me, I don't have to show you anything, and if you try, I'll divorce you," that doesn't reduce their anxiety, it multiplies it by 10. What people in the comments say, a lot of people basically write, "She thought he was cheating at the exact moment he was acting like someone who's willing to divorce his pregnant wife over a minor issue." That almost proves that he's either hiding something or already wanted out and needed a pretext. Others add, "It feels like he was just looking for an excuse. She made a mistake, checked his phone, and he went. Oh, there it is. The perfect official reason. You crossed my boundary, I'm out." Instead of talking, comforting her, explaining things, he grabbed onto divorce. Another comment. "When my wife was pregnant, she once burst into tears over gummy bear candy because she thought it was so cruel to real bears. Hormones are hell. A person is not automatically a bad human being because of how they behave. In a hormone-induced meltdown, the bad one is the person who dumps his pregnant wife and unborn child over a single mistake that could have been discussed and worked through." My opinion? Yes, he has a right to privacy. Yes, checking someone's phone without permission is wrong. But she's pregnant, emotional, and scared. She didn't find anything. She immediately started apologizing. And he still decided this was a point of no return. To me, it really looks like the phone is not the real issue. The real issue is that he doesn't want to be in this marriage anymore, but instead of saying that honestly, he clings to this one incident and turns it into a moral hill to die on. Most people in the comments agree that in this situation, the actual jerk is him, not the pregnant woman who, in a hormonal storm, checked his phone one time, found nothing, and begged for forgiveness. Thank you so much for listening. I'd really appreciate your subscription, likes, and comments. Take care of yourselves and stay safe.